Between your 30s and your 70s, visceral fat increases by more than 200% in men, up to 400% in women. And it's not just because of what you're eating or how much you're exercising. It's because your hormones change as you age and shift where your body stores fat. I've worked with tens of thousands of patients over the years, and I see the same pattern again and again. People doing all the right things, but still dealing with stubborn belly fat because their body simply isn't responding the way that it used to. So in this video, I'm going to show you what changes in your body after 50 that makes visceral fat so hard to lose. The best strategies specifically designed for people over 50 and a secret weakness about visceral fat that no one tells you. Now, you might think we'd start with what you can do during the day, but what happens at night can override all of it. And you clearly can see this when researchers actually tested it in a Mayo Clinic study. They put two groups on the exact same diet, same calories, same foods. The only difference was sleep. One group got 9 hours a night. The other group got just 4. And after just 2 weeks, the sleep-deprived group had accumulated 11% more visceral fat, specifically around their organs. Not from extra food, not from skipping the gym, just from less sleep. And the part that stopped me in my tracks was when these participants went back to sleeping longer, that visceral fat did not go away. The damage was already done. Now, here's why it hits so much harder when you're in your 50s. When you're younger, estrogen, testosterone, they help regulate cortisol, your stress hormone. They act like a buffer. But as those hormones decline with age, cortisol stays elevated longer, especially at night. So poor sleep after 50 doesn't just make you tired, it actively redirects where your body stores fat, pulling it away from places like your arms or your hips and depositing it around your organs. Now, the good news is that sleep is one of the fastest levers that you can pull, and the results show up quicker than most people expect. Here's what I've seen work over and over again, especially after 50. Start with a 7 to 9 hour sleep window. Make sure that you have consistent sleep schedule. You want to go to bed, you want to wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends if you can help it. After 50, your cortisol rhythm becomes easier to throw off, and inconsistency in sleep keeps it elevated at nighttime. The next step is cooling your bedroom to around 65 to 68 degrees. It activates brown fat, which burns calories to generate heat, and it can increase overnight calorie burn by as much as 100 calories per night. You also want to stop eating at least 3 hours before bed. This is extremely important. Late eating keeps insulin elevated, which blocks melatonin, and it keeps your body in storage mode overnight. It also is one of the #1 reasons why you wake up in the middle of the night. Your blood sugar just crashed because you ate too late. Now, an easy trick to shut the eating machine off is to brush your teeth right after dinner. So then your brain knows we're done eating. Do your best to shut down screens, bright lights, about an hour before going to sleep. Blue light tells your brain it's still daytime, and it can cut your melatonin production in half, which keeps you out of deep sleep, out of restorative sleep. Another piece that is often missed, especially after 50, is magnesium. As you age, your levels naturally drop, and when they're low, it becomes much harder for your body to shut off stress signals, especially at nighttime. So the form that works best sleep-wise is the glycinate form, because your body can absorb it well. I do a multi-form myself where you have magnesium glycinate with multiple other forms before bed, and then that way you've got full body support going on. But the glycinate has the biggest impact on the brain and the sleep side of things. 200 to 400 milligrams, roughly 30 minutes before bed, will really help to bring those cortisol levels down and improve the depth of your sleep. Now, that's just one step of 7, and the most powerful ways to reduce visceral fat are still to come. So let's keep moving. Let's talk about, pun intended, movement. Most people over 50 struggle with belly fat, and then they think the answer is just to push harder, more running, longer workouts, more intensity. That's what used to work for you when you were maybe in your 30s. More effort meant more results. But after 50, your body doesn't respond the same way. Here's what's actually happening. Visceral fat cells have more cortisol receptors. That's why we get a lot more belly fat, this big cortisol connection. They have more than any other fat cells in the body. After 50, cortisol stays elevated longer because you've lost some of the hormones that used to keep it in check, like we just talked about. So when you push too hard without enough recovery, those cells get a stronger, longer signal to store store fat in your midsection, not release it. That means your belly fat can actually increase as your workouts get longer or harder. And once that's happening, pushing harder only makes the problem worse. So for people over 50, the strategy has to change. Your body responds better to the right level of stress, not the maximum amount. The fastest way to start burning visceral fat through movement is something most people usually don't expect, just brisk walking, specifically interval walking. I really like this. A study of over 400,000 adults found that walking pace, not steps, not the number of steps you get in, was one of the strongest predictors of burning visceral fat. And it didn't just affect fat levels, it showed up in lifespan as well. Over time, the difference was massive. Brisk walkers had the equivalent of about 16 years younger in their biological age. And the biggest benefit showed up in older, heavier adults. So the goal isn't just to walk more, it's to change your pace. And this simple way, right, that you can do this, alternate 3 minutes of brisk walking where you can still talk, but it takes effort, and then 3 minutes of easy walking. And just on, off, on, off. You're intensifying for a short amount of time, resting and intensifying again. That's how we tap into fat burning. Do that for 20 to 30 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week. That's all it takes to start reducing visceral fat. There's also 2 simple upgrades that can make this even more effective. The first one is walking after meals. It's huge. All it takes 5 to 10 minutes, lowers blood sugar by more than 20%, which then keeps insulin down and allows your body to burn fat instead of store it. So if you could only do 1 walk a day, it would be after your biggest meal. Second, increase your daily movement outside of workouts. This is a concept called NEAT, N-E-A-T, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. After 50, this drops without you noticing it, sometimes by 30 to 40%. And that alone can mean hundreds of fewer calories burned every day. We're just moving less. So make a point to do things like stand when you're on the phone. Take the longer route. Take the stairs, not the elevator. Even a couple minutes of movement each hour. Replacing just 2 hours of sitting can burn around 350 extra calories a day. We need to build more movement into our day. All right, number 3. This next piece is one of the biggest reasons why people over 50 lose weight and still can't lose belly fat. And almost nobody explains why that happens. And here's the scenario that I see all the time. Someone decides to lose weight. They eat less food. The scale goes down. So step 1, they start feeling good, but then they notice their belly hasn't really changed and they feel weaker. And then a few months later, the weight comes back, but this time it comes back as fat, not muscle. So they diet again, they lose more muscle, and then the cycle repeats. And each round leaves behind more fat, less muscle. Researchers call this the dieting death spiral. It's a little dramatic, but after 50, the stakes are higher than ever. Your body already loses 1% of muscle nearly every year after 50, unless you actively maintain it. It's called sarcopenia. And when muscle loss combines with more belly fat, you get what's called sarcopenic obesity. More fat, less muscle. And with less muscle, your body burns less energy, which makes fat loss harder. So the key is protecting your muscle while you lose weight. And that comes down to 2 things. The first is resistance training. I mentioned it earlier. 2 or 3 sessions per week at least is enough. They don't have to be long. 10, 20, 30 minutes is plenty. What matters most is compounded movements, exercises that work multiple muscles at once. Squats, chair squats if you need more stability, push-ups, wall push-ups if regular ones are too difficult, rows, you could use a resistance band, simple step-ups, you could add some weight to that. You don't need a gym membership. I've seen even frail nursing home patients improve strength, improve mobility with just simple body weight routines. But the key is progressive challenge. We help with this by making a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 of our 10-minute workouts. If it's easy, it's not enough. It's time to level up. Now, after 50, your muscles become less responsive to protein. This is the second thing. It's called anabolic resistance. You need more protein than you did in your 30s to get the same muscle building signal. Most general guidelines for protein were built for younger adults. So instead, aim for at least half of your body weight in grams of protein per day. So if you weigh 160 pounds, half of your body weight would be 80. Convert to grams, 80 grams. That's the minimum. So it's a very simple formula. If you're active though, walking regularly, doing yoga or light exercise, you're doing the 10-minute workouts, then want to take it up a notch and you're looking at around 0.75 grams per pound of body weight. So if you weighed 160 pounds, 3/4 of that would be 120 grams per day that you'd be shooting for. And if you're doing resistance training, you're super active, or really trying to lose weight, you're then aiming for 1-to-1. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight over a day. So in a meal, that looks like anywhere from 30 to 40 grams of protein that you're putting in on a daily basis per meal. Spread it out across 3 meals and you'll absorb it better instead of trying to pack a huge amount into one. Number 4, there's something happening inside your body right now, something invisible that is actively feeding your visceral fat. As you age, your body starts to build a type of chronic low-grade inflammation. No fever, no swelling, nothing you can really feel. But researchers call this inflammation and aging. And here's where it gets dangerous. Visceral fat and inflammation feed each other. That fat releases inflammatory chemicals, which make your cells less responsive to insulin. When that happens, your body shifts into fat storage mode, especially around your organs. That leads to more visceral fat, which then releases more of those same inflammatory chemicals. That cycle keeps reinforcing itself. When you're younger, hormones, again, like estrogen, testosterone, growth hormone, they act as buffers that dampen that loop. But after 50, those buffers are gone, and then the loop can spiral out of control. The good news is you can start turning this around with the food that you eat. It doesn't require anything extreme. One of the most powerful tools you have is extra virgin olive oil. In one clinical study, people who replaced their usual fats with olive oil lost 80% more total fat on the exact same amount of calories. That tells you something important. The type of fat you eat changes how your body handles fat. So when you're at the store, look for cold pressed extra virgin olive oil in a darker colored bottle. I prefer it to be singularly sourced instead of a blend of multiple oils from multiple places. And then the beneficial compounds are the highest. Now, coconut oil is good as well. Avocado oil is good. But from the research, the study, olive oil really had an impact for what our topic is today of visceral fat. You can aim for 1 to 2 tablespoons a day, whether that's drizzling it over some vegetables or hummus, adding it to a salad. You can take it straight, but I usually try to incorporate it into my food or my meals. Then pair it with fatty fish a few times a week. Think salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. These contain omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA. I love these two. They're so important for the body. They help shut down the inflammatory signals coming from visceral fat. A serving is about 3 to 4 ounces, roughly the size of a bar of soap or the palm of your hand. I don't eat a ton of fish. We add in omegas and turmeric in a supplement form with solid doses of EPA and DHA, and the turmeric is emulsified to really increase the absorption and allow our body to use it as close to food as we can. Obviously, eating the real thing, the best you can do. Make sure you're adding color to that plate of your olive oil and your fish as well. We try to get a lot of red and orange and dark green, different colors, different pigments of vegetables. Those are called carotenoids and make it harder for visceral fat to stick around. So consistently in the Livingood household, there is cauliflower and cabbage and carrots and cucumbers and radishes in a big bowl that we all pick on when we're leading up to a meal. Tomatoes can be put in there. We have sweet potatoes, spinach, kale, peppers. These should show up regularly. And on top of that, you've got additions that make a real difference over time, like berries. We mentioned turmeric. These are huge for supporting healthy inflammatory levels. Ginger is another great one. Ginger tea. They help lower the inflammation that tells your body to store fat around your organs. And it doesn't take much. One more easy addition, green tea or matcha tea. They contain compounds that help keep your fat burning signals active longer. Just 1 to 2 cups a day is enough. Just keep it unsweetened because sugar and added sugars are going to stoke the inflammation fire. So we want to avoid those. Let's go to the next one. One system that can block everything that we've talked about so far. And most people over 50 don't even realize that's happening. And it's happening in your gut. So we've got to talk gut health. The bacteria that keep your metabolism healthy naturally decline as you age. And the ones that drive fat storage, inflammation, and cravings, they start to take over inside the gut. The good news is that this is very fixable and it can shift really fast, faster than you might expect, starting with just fermented foods on a daily basis. Things like plain unsweetened yogurt. Greek yogurt's probably the best in that scenario. It's got to have the live cultures in it though. These good probiotics, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, even a small serving just added to one of your meals makes a big difference of feeding the right bacteria in your gut. Those are the beneficial bacteria that help strengthen your gut lining and reduce the signals that tell your body to store fat. Next, add soluble fiber. This is the type of fiber that forms a gel in your digestive tract. That gel feeds your beneficial bacteria, slows down how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream. So then it helps you feel more full sooner. So you naturally eat eat less without even trying. So aim for 25 to 35 grams of total fiber per day. You can get that from foods like an oat. Just be careful that they're non-GMO. Avocados, flax seeds, chia seeds, black beans, incredible source. Any other lentils, Brussels sprouts. Right alongside that, prebiotic foods matter just as much. That's what feeds the good beneficial bacteria to help regulate the metabolism and improve how your body handles blood sugar. You'll find those in things like garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus. You don't need much. Just cooking with garlic and onions regularly is enough to make the difference. And then there's one more piece most people miss. Give your gut a break overnight. Aim for 12 hours between your last meal of the day and your first meal the next day. If you finish dinner at 7, eating again in the morning at 7. That 12-hour window already there if you can just do 7 to 7. That overnight window gives your gut time to rest, to repair, and it helps the right bacteria grow. It also lines up your eating with your body's internal clock, which is when your metabolism works most efficient. Now, everything we've covered so far, sleep, movement, food, your gut, all connects back to one thing. It's come up in multiple of them, and that's cortisol. After 50, chronic stress doesn't just make you feel off, it changes where your body stores fat. When cortisol stays elevated, your body shifts fat away from your arms, from your legs, and then it stores it around your organs, that visceral fat. So even if your habits look solid, your belly can keep growing. And this shows up clearly in the research. A Yale study found that women who were more stress reactive, meaning that their cortisol spiked higher and stayed elevated longer, had significantly more visceral fat than women of the same age and body weight. It's because your body treats stress like a threat. And when it senses a threat, it stores energy where it can access it quickly, right in your midsection. So what can you do about it? Some of this you're already doing. The interval walking from earlier on in this video is one of the most effective ways to bring cortisol down, especially if you do it in the mornings. 10 to 20 minutes outside, the natural light helps reset your cortisol rhythm for the day. Another piece to add is adding in diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, paced breathing is what I teach. Just a few minutes a day is enough, few little 1 or 2 minute breathing breaks. Paced breathing, big deep breath in, 5 seconds in, 5 to 6 seconds out, or box breathing. Really calms down your stress response system and activates your relaxation response. The longer exhale activates the vagus nerve, which comes right out of the top of your neck, shifts your body out of stress mode and into recovery mode. Simple, but it works. Next, pay attention to your caffeine timing. Caffeine can keep cortisol elevated for 6 hours or more. Awesome in the morning, but if you're drinking it after 2 p.m., it's probably still in your system at 8 o'clock. It can start disrupting your sleep and keeping stress signals elevated overnight. Cut it off around noon. Also limit alcohol. Even though it can feel relaxing, it disrupts your sleep. It forces your body to focus on processing it instead of burning fat. And over time, that slows visceral fat loss, especially after menopause. If you want an extra layer of support, there are 2 that stand out, ashwagandha and rhodiola. These are natural compounds that help bring cortisol down. If they're used consistently, they've been shown to reduce the levels by as much as 30%. They are not a shortcut though. But when you combine them with everything else we just talked about, sleep, movement, breathing, they can help take the edge off chronic stress in a real noticeable way. Now, here's the secret about visceral fat that I promised at the beginning. Most people think it's the most stubborn fat on their body, the last to go, the hardest to lose, the one that takes extreme effort. But when researchers looked at this across dozens of weight loss strategies, dieting, exercise, combined approach, they found something surprising. In every case, visceral fat decreased faster than subcutaneous fat under the skin every time. Meaning the ones you can pinch on the front, those are more stubborn, but that fat that's in around your organs, it's not the most stubborn fat. It's actually the first fat that your body wants to burn. That's because visceral fat cells have more fat burning receptors and better blood flow than the other fat cells. So when the right signals are in place, they respond quickly. What keeps them stuck is everything that we just talked about. Elevated cortisol for poor sleep and chronic stress, constant insulin spikes from sugar and processed food, and the internal environment that builds up after 50. Fix those conditions and your body starts releasing that fat the way that it was designed to. Now here's where most people get confused, because that fat is often coming off before the scale shows anything. So it feels like nothing's happening. even when your body is already changing, which raises the obvious question. How do you know any of this stuff is actually working? Because we get impatient. That's exactly what I break down in my next video. 15 weird signs that your body is burning fat, even if the scale says you're not. And I'll show you the early signals that your body gives you so you don't quit right when things are starting to work. I'll include a link to that here. Click to watch it next, and I'll see you there.